So it's about T-minus 3 weeks, and we all know Thanksgiving is fast approaching. And I guess one of the biggest topics that people are talking about now is how to survive Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know about you, but we probably all have, like in my family, we had Uncle John. Uncle John was a lovely guy, absolutely loved. I loved him dearly. But boy, can he put his foot in his mouth, and sometimes what came out of his mouth made me cringe. And I will talk someplace else other than here about what those words might have been. I loved Uncle John, but boy, the things that came out of his mouth were just like, you just said what? Publicly? And you know those type of people, right? We all have them. And in many ways, those type of family arguments are what was going on in our gospel today. So Jesus was hanging out with the Sadducees. And we always talk about the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And a lot of scholars nowadays believe that Jesus was a Pharisee. As much as he criticized the Pharisees, a lot of people think he was one because he was so familiar with them. The Sadducees, on the other hand, were the upper crust establishment. I would call them the waspy Princetonians. You know the type. You know, they're old money, they kept the establishment, they liked things the way they liked things. They were the priestly caste, and they made their money by literally doing sacrifices. And you could only become a Sadducee if you were born into that family line. They believed that only God wanted to see God's people following the rules and regulations of the Old Testament through sacrifices and rituals, and that's how God could be pleased. But the interesting thing is, they did not believe in an afterlife, including the resurrection. And most Jews today, strangely enough, do not believe in an afterlife. Because I think a lot of times, many times, Christians believe Jews are just Christians without Jesus. But that's not true. So the Sadducees were kind of dealing with Jesus, saying things to get his goat, get him fired up. And they come with this ridiculous argument about whose wife it is after marrying 7 wives later. Talk about weird family dynamics there. Can you imagine marrying every one of your, I might think of that. Just downright strange. But what Jesus wants to get to amongst this whole crazy argument is the idea of what is it that we hope for. Hope. We talk about it a lot because it's the top name of our town. But hope is a Christian virtue. Probably been to one where you heard 1 Corinthians 13, faith, hope, and love. I could rattle that off like no tomorrow, because that is everyone's favorite wedding reading. But hope, what is it? And what Jesus is presenting is that hope comes in the resurrection. This concept of the resurrection was somewhat new to Jewish people at this time, to be honest. That there was something more to life than the life of this present world. And it challenged them in a way. It challenged them so much that the Sadducees gave this ridiculous argument about 7 wives and brothers marrying wives and all that craziness. But the root of what Jesus is asking us to think about is, what is it that you put your hope in? What is it that you put your hope in? And I think this is a question that all of us have to ask ourselves. Where is it that we have hope? We don't have. We're all old here. Okay? If you were to talk to millennials, talk about a hopeless generation. Some of you might have millennial grandchildren or children. But I talk to millennials a lot of times, I have friends, or through marriage counseling, and so many of them will say to me, I don't have hope. I don't even want to raise a family. That I hear this time and time again. I don't think there is a future. Thus, I'm not going to raise a family. I've had that happen probably 5 times in the last year, where in my marriage counseling, young couples will say that to me. We lack hope. We have debt. We will never get out of this college debt. The earth is falling apart because of global warming, and on and on and on. They lack hope. And I think this is something we, who are a little bit older, need to reflect upon. Is what is hope? Cornel West, I know, is a controversial social critic. He was a professor at Princeton up until recently. Said that optimism is a secular value, while hope is a religious value. And I think we need to distinguish between the difference between optimism, which is that idea that things are going to get better, and hope, which is something you put your faith in. Something that you put your faith in. It's not just a feel-good psychological thing, but something we put our faith in. And I think this is where Jesus is asking the Sadducees to ask themselves deeply, where is your hope? Where do you put your faith in? Do you put your faith in these empty practices of religion? Or do you put your faith into something much bigger than yourself? Do you trust in something much bigger than yourself? And I think this is something we need to ask ourselves again and again. It doesn't matter if you're 6 or 60 or 96. Where do we put our faith in? It's interesting that the last section of the Catechism of the Episcopal Church is entitled Christian Hope. And I know these are the clean pages of the prayer book, which no one ventures in except me. But I think it's kind of beautiful that the last section is about hope. Christian hope is to live with confidence and the newness and fullness of life, and to await the coming of Christ in glory and the completion of God's purpose for the world. The completion of God's purpose. I think that's really where hope is placed. That we are part of something much bigger than ourselves, greater than any possibility, and that we have that potential to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. We have something bigger than our little scope of what the world is or isn't. And we're a part of that plan. And so I think it's interesting that the church reflects upon the end and hope in the month of November. It's pretty dark out there now, and I'm not really liking it. But I think it asks us to go deep within ourselves. Say, where do we ground ourselves in? Where do we place our faith? And where is our hope? So the question that I ask you then is, are we going to be like the Sadducees who get caught up in all the little details? And sometimes the silly details of life? Or are we going to go beyond those questions and ask something deeper? Where do we put our hope in? Do we have it? And I think that's a question we need to each ask ourselves individually every day. The world we live is complicated, it's messy, this might not be the way we want it to be. What is it that we go beyond? And what does hope mean for each one of us?